Hey there, sign folk. Sean the Sign Guy here. I hope everyone's doing well. Christmas is right around the corner, and I'm sure most of you have been busy with some Christmas orders and whatnot. And so today's video, I'm going to go over some of our, well, not some, I'm going to try to cover everything about sign and decal pricing. So I hope you all stick with me. Hopefully you get some information off of it, and hopefully it helps you guys out. So stick with me, and we're going to get this one started. How we figured out what we need to charge per square foot in order to make our shop profitable and for us to pay the bills, survive, do the things that we like to do is you have to figure out the your total overhead. And I don't know what that's going to be for you all. Everyone's a little different. But I have some numbers that'll kind of help you. So I'm going to have three different scenarios. One's going to be a wood sign. The second one's going to be some die cut vinyl lettering. And the third one's going to be printed, laminated, contour cut scenario print numbers. So the first thing that you have to do is I have my little cheat sheet here. And so when I figure out my wood signs, basically you have to figure out the cost of the wood, cost of the vinyl, your consumables, application tape, paint, brushes, rollers, little stuff like that. So essentially what I had to do was break down what I'm paying per square foot for the wood, for the vinyl, how much paint that I'm using, and figure out the rest of the material costs that go into just making a sign, above and beyond what your shop rate's going to be. So for the scenario of a 2 foot by 3 foot, double-sided, half-inch MDO painted sign. And again, like I said, these scenarios I'm using one shot, 751 cast vinyl, two colors on the sign. So I figured up, so my cost of wood is going to be $80. My 751 24-inch by 10-yard roll of cast, we'll just call it a color of blue, for $77. Then you have your application tape. Application tape, what are they, 100 yards, 24-inch by 100 yards, I think is what I'm going to use. And that comes out to about $85 a roll. Then I have my paint. Paint is iffy right now. I know that One Shot's having some issues, but for the sake of this video today, I'm going to use the scenario of a quart is going to cost you about $58. And I have, foam roller and a 4-inch foam brush. Basically, I'm going to call those 50 cents a piece, so I got $1 into them. So in a nutshell, when you start breaking everything down for your material costs, for my plywood. So my plywood is $80 a sheet, 32 square feet, and that basically breaks down to $2.50 per square foot for a sheet of MDO. For your vinyl, 24-inch by 10-yard roll, $77, you have 60 square feet, and that breaks down to $1.28 per square foot. I'm going to say everything that I evaluate and I estimate is per square foot. It just makes it a lot easier for me. We've done it long enough that I know up here in my head, I can kind of shoot from the hip and give some decent prices there. And so application tape, 24-inch by 100 yards, $85. You have 600 square feet, and basically that's minimal. That's 14 cents a square foot. And then the paint for the one shot, $58 a quart, and I generally use about 3 ounces per 6 square feet of signage somewhere, and it varies by color. Some colors cover a little bit better than others, but we're just going to say 4 ounces for the sake of this scenario. So the other thing, so you have your material cost. So basically we'll just say $40. I've got $40 in the wood, the vinyl, application tape, my rollers. Those are the consumables that will make the sign, and not really much can change with that. Now, of course, the market fluctuates, so things kind of change and vary. So the next thing that you have to figure out is you have design time. So for this scenario, I'm going to say $50 an hour is going to be the shop rate for design time and the production time. So I figure about an hour to design and get everything laid out in Flexi and make it production ready. By production ready, I mean that the customer is approved the design, you've welded everything, you've got all the fonts and everything separated, you exported the EPS file, you're ready to go. That's a production ready file in my book. And the other thing that you have to factor in is once you have your design rate is different than the production rate, because everyone knows if someone's standing over your shoulder, which I don't do, people have the ability to kind of tweak, and they'll take a lot more of your time if they're kind of standing over your shoulder. But if you're if you tell them, say, do you want the design time with them standing over your shoulder, or do you want the design time when you can kind of get to them? But again, for the sake of this scenario, we're just going to say that the customer let you have an hour's worth of design time. So $50. So with the cost of materials about $40, and I have my shop rate, my design at $50, actual production of the sign. So you still have to cut the pattern out of vinyl. You have to weed it, mask it, apply it to the plywood, trace it, cut it, sand it, prime it, paint it. And that's going to determine how fast that you can go with those things. But I can generally do it in about an hour. It's not all in the same time. Like I said, sometimes it's, I cut and I sand and then I prime. And then I have to come back in about 15 minutes and then I sand it and prime it or ready to paint it. Generally, it's about an hour. So between the shop design time, the shop production time, and the other production time to cut, weed, the vinyl, altogether, those four parts, you have about $189 in billable or time that you need to account for that you're going to get paid for. It's $189. That's basically what it comes down to. And my rule of thumb, for the most part, depending on how big and how small signs are, but for this one, I generally do about 2.5 times the cost. So I generally do 189 times 2.5. That cost comes out to about $475. That's a selling cost. Now that I know what the selling cost on 6 square feet of signage is, I can go back and so if the next person asks me, so what's something like that cost? So when you break the 475 down to 8 square feet, to 6 square feet, and basically you get $80 a square foot finished. So when you do all this homework up front and you know your material cost, the next time something comes up, you'll have a better idea of how to charge those people accordingly. So that way you don't lose any money. And again, there are variables to all of this. Like I said, my 6 square feet was full coverage, 2 colors, double-sided, prime painted, the whole 9 yards. That's generally what I do. But hopefully that kind of gives you a little idea as far as, material. And you can do the same thing with ACM. You can do the same thing with PVC. Now, the biggest problem is that I think people underestimate their time. I see sign shops as a specialty service. I don't see it as one of these things that you can just go out to the hardware store, to a Lowe's or whatever, and pick up, whatever you need. I see value in what I do, and I hope that you all see value in what you do too, because what we do is a specialized service. Now, when you get into the artwork portion of things, when I say $80 a square foot, I'm looking for something a little bit more high end. I'm not looking for something along the lines of, let's say, this, standard text, something like this. I personally have a hard time doing stuff like this. I need to elevate my designs. I need to separate myself from everybody else. And that's another reason why you get more money based upon your abilities to do these kind of things for customers. So this is a scenario, this is what the customer gave me. And this is what I actually did for the customer. So you can see it, and not everyone's gonna like this, I get it. The customer liked it. I thought that it had a good balance. I thought that it worked really well. But when you sell something like this, you'll get $80 a square foot. When you sell something like this, you're probably only going to get about, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks a square foot, because everyone can do this. Not everyone can do this. So that's one scenario. The other thing that probably needs to be gone over is die cut vinyl. And we essentially figure out die cut vinyl. Basically, it's the same way. You need to break down your material cost, and we do it by the square foot. So for this scenario, I'm going to say I'm doing airplane numbers. And sorry, my heater fan just kicked on. So I'm going to try to talk a little bit louder. So these would be end numbers for the back of an airplane. And these numbers are going to be 12 inches tall, 48 inches long. And of course, they're going to need a pair of them, one for each side. It's a total of 8 square feet. So by the first example with the MDO sign, I'm going to use the same scenario of 751 cast vinyl. I know what the material cost is, and I'm going to relay that onto this scenario. So essentially, I'm going to use a Helvetica font or an impact font or something like that, 12 inches by 48 inches, 12 inches tall, 48 inches long. That comes out to 4 square feet per side. So that's a total of 8 square feet. I know my vinyl cost is $77. You break that into, there's 60 square feet in a 24 inch by 10 yard roll of material. 10 yards is, what's a yard is 3 feet. So 3 times 10 is 30 times 2, 60. So you, anyways, blah. So you get back down to $1.28 per square foot for a 751 cast vinyl. You do the same scenario with 651, with 631, with 951, whatever the media cost is, we like to break it down by the square foot. So in figuring up these end numbers, what I have to do is you have, again, you have design time, you have material costs, and then you have like a shop production labor kind of thing. So my design time on something like that would probably be, I don't know, 15 minutes. Probably wouldn't take me that long to go ahead and knock something like that out, send it over to the customer, get their approval, fine. If they're standing over your shoulder, sometimes it's better, but I feel like when someone stands over my shoulder, I'm more pressed to move a little bit faster, and sometimes I make mistakes and I don't like it. So I can do it, but I don't like it. So 15 minutes of design time, and then I have my application tape again at 14 cents a square foot. At 8 square feet, that's $1.12 for 8 square feet. For my 751 for my vinyl, 8 square feet again is $10.24. And so my shop production rate, that's going to be the amount of time that it takes me to, obviously, once, depending on what computer it's on, whether I export it and get it production ready. So when the file is cut, that includes time to load the vinyl in the cutter, the cutting time, the weeding time, the trimming time, the masking time. That includes all that. And something like that, in this scenario, I'd say it's going to take me a half hour. Some of you people can do it faster, good for you, but I'm just, I charge what I charge. I'm not near as fast as what I used to be. But I give myself a realistic time of how much time that it's going to take me to do this stuff. Not you, not me, not the guy next door, not the guy down the road, whatever. It's you. It's how much time that it takes you to do it. So being that I had basically 15 minutes of design times, $12.50. My application tape was $1.12. My 751 cast vinyl, I had $10.24 in that. And then I had $25 in production time. Essentially that comes out to almost 50 bucks. To be more accurate, it's $48.86. And again, depending on the square footage, I generally charge 2.5 times that. Sometimes it's 3, depends on the customer. Maybe it's a specialty color, maybe, you know, you had a little bit more trouble getting something, or, you know, fuddle, whatever. So those pair of numbers out the door, my cost would be $122.15 out the door. And knowing that, so 122 is my selling cost, then I can break it back down, divide it by 8 square feet, and essentially you're getting $15 a square foot. That's cut. And again, I keep those numbers in the back of my head because it's easier for me to spit that stuff off. When someone asks you on the spot, well, how much is that going to be? It's like, well, depending on, it could be, $12 to $18 a square foot. So it's a good rule of thumb to use, and I use it today to give a lot of rough estimates for things. And so the last scenario I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do basically the airplane end numbers, but in this scenario I would actually print them. And because I already know how many square feet and the design time, the production time is going to change a little bit, but there's some variables in there that we have to take into consideration. So to print these end numbers, 12 inches tall, 48 inches wide, we're going to need a pair of them. I'm going to use the scenario of I'm printing on my substance media like I generally do. It's not a cast product, but you can figure out the square footage from there because I already know these numbers. So my design time is going to be the same. Basically 15 minutes, $12.50. Application tape, because even though that it's printed, it's still going to have to be masked for ease of the customer to install. My media, 30 inches by 50 yards, basically breaks down to 375 square feet. That roll cost me $115, and basically I'm at 31 cents a square foot. I'm telling you, you ain't gonna get nothing better than that. That stuff's awesome. And so the next thing is I'm gonna need laminate. The laminate's exactly the same. It's 30 inches by 50 yards, $115 a roll. You break it down, 375 square feet, you're at 31 cents per square foot. And the only other really variable in this when you're printing is your ink cost. I have Flexi programmed to where basically it thinks that I'm getting my 220 cartridges for $80 a cartridge, which is a little bit more. I think the going rate's about $75 for a cartridge, but I always overestimate for the cleaning cycles, and sometimes you get a botch print like I had over there. That was totally my fault, not the printer. But so my ink cost, essentially on a 720 by 720 profile, and that's generally my good profile. It's not my best, it's not my economy, it's kind of like my mid-grade. It's got a good saturation of ink, so the blacks are really going to be nice and rich, and the colors are going to be nice and deep. So my ink cost is going to be $1.20 for 8 square feet, and I figured it's about 15 cents a square foot. And again, that number can bounce around a little bit too, depending on the actual colors. So 12 inch by 48 inch, 8 square feet, printed material on substance, and that's the 3155 and the 2170. I think I'm wrong, but I can't remember. Anyways, printed on the media. Once it's printed, obviously it's eco-solvent. It has to sit. It has to outgas for a little bit. Then it needs to be laminated. Once it's laminated, it goes in the cutter. It gets contour cut. Once it's contour cut, you got to take it back out of the cutter. You got to weed it, trim it, mask it, split it, get it to the customer. That cost out the door for me would be $112 and change. And essentially, it's a little bit less expensive to print because of the media that I'm printing on. Now, if you had done this on a cast, like an Avery, I don't know, what was it, a 1005? I don't even know what numbers they have anymore. I'm just like totally lost with cast media. But I guarantee you that the cost would go up significantly per square foot, because I believe a 30-inch, 50-yard media and laminate's probably going to get you somewhere in the $600 range, somewhere in that area. So your material cost and laminate cost are going to go up through the roof. I don't know those numbers. But so again, with my total, with my substance media, the print, contour cut, design time, the whole thing, graphics out the door, $112, and I break that down by square footage again, and I come up with about $14 a square foot. So again, I use that same scenario with someone else that would come through the door saying, hey, I need this, and this. First thing I ask them is, what size is it? Oh, I don't know. Like, yeah. And you hold their hands. You're like, you try to get the tape measure on it. You know what I'm talking about. Size, and then you can shoot them off, a rough price from then and there, and design is going to fluctuate, obviously, and people know that. But anyways, those are kind of the scenarios with how we figured out a profitable return on what we do. Now, again, there's a lot of other variables, and you need to figure out what your total overhead is, whether it be your rent, your mortgage, your equipment, your utilities, your taxes. If you have labor, you need to figure that out as well. You always need to figure out your material cost. That's why I like to keep, someone asked me a question, and I can't remember who it was, but they're like, I noticed that you use a lot of 30-inch media because I know what it costs. It's just easier for me to remember, and it works well for a lot of our projects. It just fits what we do and what we sell, opposed to getting a bigger media, which I'd waste more material. I get a little bit better price on the bigger material, but I find that it's harder to manage. And so there's always that give and take of, I may lose a couple cents by not getting the bigger media, but for me, it's a lot easier with my big squeegee and just the way that the setup is. You also have the ability, if you're ever going to get into the print side of things, always outsource first. I mean, there are a ton of different, print wholesalers out there that are more than willing to help you guys out. And I highly advise them. We did it for about a year before we decided, and we had enough business that we could justify buying a printer. One of the other videos that I did, obviously, the printers are good, but they're made to run, and when they're not running, they're not making money. That's just, my experience. I know I was watching Darren from Time to Make Something today, and I think today's video, at least that I watched, was sponsored through, I think, Firesprint. He is on Signs 101. I know they do wholesale printing and stuff like that. You can always look them up. And there's a lot of other great people out there. I've used Signs 365 in the past. I don't like their pricing tiers, the way that they've gone over the last couple months, so I've kind of gone away from them. And, the other thing is just be realistic about your projects. When someone comes in and they're like, hey, Sean, can you, and I'm not your guy. I don't know. I'm sure there's someone out there, I can't help you. Typically I can, but there's so many variables, and everyone kind of expects the world, when it comes to signs. I like to think myself as a craftsman more than anything. I'm pretty good on the computer. I can get around, I can work, I can print, I can cut, I can carve, I can CNC, I can do all that stuff. But there's certain things as I'm getting older that I'm just not fond of doing. And so don't be afraid to say no and turn jobs down. It's not the end of the world. And trust me, if your gut tells you to fire a customer, fire them, because I've been there, done that too. So, some of the other things is, focus on what you really want to do. If you have a vinyl cutter and that's all you have right now, and that's great, focus on being the best that you can possibly be with that vinyl cutter. Make that cutter do what no one else can do, because that'll separate you from the rest of the pack. It may take time, but I guarantee you, once you start learning what your capabilities are with the cutter and the software, the sky's the limit. Creativity, it doesn't end. So that's one thing that I highly advise learning and pushing yourself to do is pushing the envelope of your creative abilities. And whether it's inspiration from other people or other signs, I get inspiration from other signs all the time. Typically they're from bad ones. But, I've seen some stuff, I'm like, God, I really wish I could do that. Sometimes I do, and I'll sit down and I'll just try to copy it. I'll just try to emulate it. Generally, I get pretty close. And sometimes I forget half the crap that I actually learned over the last 20-some years. So I focus on on what I want to do. And I prefer to do smaller cut jobs, smaller print jobs, and smaller CNC jobs. And I can honestly tell you, with the equipment that we have, I know Darren had talked about this again this morning, about having all this equipment and trying to keep up with it. It can be a bitch sometimes. I mean, I'm telling you, there's, material costs, for what we pay for these printers and these cutters and this software and everything else. I mean, it takes a lot to keep up with that. And not only to keep up with that, but you also got to keep up with your business. And not only you got to keep up with your business, is you still got a home life, you still got to have a life, and you still got to live. So that's why over the last 12 years, like I said, when we had employees, did we make money? God, hell yeah. We made a lot of freaking money. I can tell you the money isn't everything. And, when we really scaled down, we don't gross as much money as what we once did. But at the same time, we still make enough to pay our bills, survive, and then, do the things that we want to do. And I think that's the most important thing. So that's, just some of the things that you always need to consider when you're pricing stuff out is, once you get the core of your material costs, that figure, that amount, and then how much that you have to make, you kind of put the two together. And there's always going to be a threshold to where, there's for instance, the market will only bear so much in your area or in the category that you're selling in or the product that you're trying to push. So you always need to keep those things in mind. I can't tell you how many times that we raise prices on certain products and they still continue to sell, as opposed to products that sit dead and do absolutely nothing, and I couldn't sell them for $1 and people still wouldn't buy them. But that's the other thing, is you have to have different avenues of income. You can't rely on single sources of income for everything. I mean, and that's why we have Amazon, Etsy, and all those other places that we sell on used to. I don't know, we're still doing some Amazon, but that's another video. So I set my experiences based on, within my capabilities. And just because something doesn't work in one area, don't give up. It's funny how we sold products on this avenue and there was zero interest in it. But at the same time, we sell the same products over here and people are willing to pay 2 or 3 times the same amount as what we were asking over there. I don't know. But it's funny how that works. And again, like I said, you just keep pricing if you think that you need a little bit more money or something's selling really, really good. And it's not something that someone can easily make as well. I think that's also another key part of our success, I think, is using multiple pieces of equipment to create one finished product. A lot of people have a cutter. A lot of people have printers. A lot of people have CNC machines. A lot of people have sandblasters and cabinets. But I'm telling you, if you can find a way that you still enjoy and you can kind of like combine all those things together, I guarantee you that you're going to single yourself out in the market and you can pretty much set your own price. And I guarantee you that everyone else will follow. And I know this from experience because that's basically what's happened with us over the last 2 years. We put a product out. It does really well. Someone gets an idea, well, I can do that. They're not doing the same exact thing, but they're coming pretty close and they're doing the stuff that we just don't want to do. So that's okay. Again, there's more to life than money. We need to be happy. And I hope this kind of helped you guys out. If it does, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you're just tuning in, I should have said this at the beginning. If you're just tuning in, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you watching. If you don't like, hit that subscribe button. I've got some more content that's coming up. And of course, if there's anything that you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to hear your comments, good or bad. It doesn't matter to me. I've had some brutal and I don't get it. Like I said, I'm not the sharpest, pencil in the friggin' bunch, but at the same time, there's some I don't know, anyways, it rolls off my shoulder. I don't care. I'm here to help you all. Hopefully this helps you out. Again, like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.